Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be answering some of your questions. Last week I had a video just asking for questions and I got a lot of great questions, so today I'm going to be answering them. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So the first question was, after school, what do the kids do to keep busy and entertained? So basically for us right now, we have about an hour or so in between coming home from school and when our activities start. So the only days of the week that we do not have activities such as sports, Cub Scouts, stuff like that going on are Thursday and Fridays. So after school, typically within that hour, we have snack right as they first get home. While they're eating snack, I go through their bags and just kind of sign anything that I have to sign, look over papers that they bring home, all of that. And then we either play outside, we go for a walk. Right now it is terribly cold still for March, so we play downstairs in our playroom a lot. We sometimes do crafts. I do have an activity binder video coming out for you guys shortly. So basically what it is a binder where I keep a lot of different things and ideas that I find on Pinterest and craft ideas, and I have it all in one place. So that way I can sort of plan out different crafts for the week and different activities, so that way we are keeping busy and entertained throughout the week in that chunk of time. Next question. Do you allow your children to watch TV and play video games on a school night? We do, yes, but it depends on their behavior, how well they're doing in school, all of those things. So our school just this year started using an app called Class Dojo, which I love. I think it's an awesome idea. The idea of it is the teachers can post your children's progress throughout the day. So if your child is doing a really good job throughout the day, they will get points, and then you can see how many points your children have throughout the day. It also works great to see if your children are struggling in certain areas. So sometimes they might lose a point for certain things, and the teacher will list why they lost a point or why they gained a point. So basically the idea of that is it's a better way for parents, I guess, to see how their kids are doing during the school day on a daily basis. I love that because based on how they've done in school is whether or not they get to watch TV and play video games after school. They don't necessarily play video games and watch TV every single day after school. It's just depending on what we have going on. Sometimes, like I said, we have a craft going on. Sometimes we're playing outside. Sometimes we're going for walks. Sometimes we're playing downstairs in our playroom. But there are occasions where they will play video games and watch TV after school if they have done a good job at home and at school. Next question. Do you make freezer meals? And if so, what are your favorites to make? So for freezer meals, I don't necessarily make meals just specifically to go into the freezer. Instead, I will double a batch. So for instance, pasta fagioli soup, I will make a double batch of that when I'm making it. We will eat half one night and then freeze the other half. So that way I have a freezer meal that's all ready to go, but it's not taking any extra time to make. So pasta fagioli soup is one of my favorites to make a double batch of. Chili is another one. Buffalo chicken I make in the crock pot, and again I'll make a big batch of it. We use half of it for dinner one night and then I'll freeze half of it. Barbecue chicken, kind of done the same way. I use chicken breasts and then sort of shred it up and freeze half of that. Let's see, what are some of the other favorites that I make freezer meals out of, or make once, eat twice? A lot of soups. So chicken noodle soup, I do a chicken tortilla soup, pasta fagioli soup, ham and lentil soup, all of those soups. The only thing is when I know I'm making a double batch and freezing half of it, I don't add the pasta in because the pasta can get really mushy and yucky and it sort of sucks up all of the broth. So I just do not add the pasta in until we're ready to serve that half batch, so that way the batch that's going in the freezer does not have the pasta in it, if that makes sense. Next question, are you still house hunting? Okay, so I think some of you might have heard the situation over a few months ago. Our neighbors approached us and wanted to buy our house. So we were moving forward with that. We found a house that we were interested in, but then our neighbors decided they wanted to buy a store in town, so their finances were sort of tied up with that. They have definitely showed interest that they want to still purchase our home. we're not necessarily going to put all of our eggs in one basket, so to speak. So what we're thinking is we kind of have an idea of when we want to put our house on the market. If they want to make an offer, then that's fine, but we're not necessarily going to just wait for them, if that makes sense. So we are not necessarily actively looking. I'm always sort of looking at the market, seeing what's out there, seeing if there's a house that comes on the market that we just cannot live without. But for the most part, I'm just keeping my eyes and ears open, and we are just trying to right now sort of make a list of all the projects we want to get done this spring, and we kind of have a timeline in mind, but it's not set in stone yet. So when that gets closer to being set in stone, or when it is set in stone, I'll definitely update you guys more. But for right now, our house hunting is kind of put on hold for right now, just until we are ready to sell our house. What are you looking for in your next home? So for our next home, the biggest thing that we're looking for is a really nice location. So right now, I actually really like my house. If I could pick it up and move it to a different location, we would probably stay here, finish off the basement, and I'd be totally fine. But the location, we live in kind of a busy area. It's not terrible, but it is a little bit busier than we'd like. We'd like to have a little bit more of a country setting and a little bit more land. So that is the number one thing that we are looking for, is location. Other than that, I would say just a few extra rooms. We would like to have 4 bedrooms. Right now we have 3 bedrooms. It's working absolutely fine right now, but as the kids get older, I'm sure they'll all want their own bedroom eventually. We would also like a family room. So we have a living room now. It would be kind of nice to have a family room where, you could just hang out as a family. I'd love a playroom for my kids and an office / like craft room. So those are kind of on my wish list, but location is definitely a must for us. Next question. What does your family think of your YouTube channel? My family has been so supportive of my YouTube channel. I feel like my dad is my biggest fan. He is always telling everyone he knows about my YouTube channel, and it's a little embarrassing. He owns a store in town, and he sees a lot of my friends from high school, and they'll always, ask like, oh, how's Megan doing? And he's always like, oh my gosh, you should check out her YouTube channel. So that's a little embarrassing, but it makes me happy that he's so proud of it. Everyone else is very supportive of it. And yeah, I mean, my aunts and uncles know about it, cousins, my mom, dad, sister, and they all think it's a positive thing. So that's good. Let's see. Are you planning on having any more children? Well, I don't think so. I don't think so. But there's always sort of that, I don't know, thing in the back of my mind, like I would love for Julia to have a sister. And I know you obviously don't have any control over that, but I just feel like that is one thing that's always kind of in the back of my head. The boys have an amazing bond. They just are best friends. They truly are. My sister and I growing up were like that. We just had an amazing bond. We still are like that. We're always just super close. And I would love for Julia to have a little sister. But like I said, we don't have any control over that. I'm really loving the stage that we're getting into now. So Julia just turned 4, Blake is 5, and Dylan is 8. And we're kind of moving out of the baby stage where I loved all of that as well, but it was a lot of work and it was harder to travel. It was harder to just pick up and go. And we're kind of moving into this next phase of our life where we have, older kids, and we can plan longer vacations. We can just go out to eat when we want to. We can, kind of go places on a whim without having to really plan things out and, make sure it's around their schedule. So I think that as our kids are getting older, that sort of question, like, are we done, is, I don't know. I feel like we're kind of getting to a point where we are deciding that we probably are. I'm going to say 90% sure that we're done. There's still just that little, voice in the back of my head that, I don't know. I saw an article on Facebook, and I actually posted it on my Facebook. It said basically, like, I'll always want a baby. I think that was what it's called. I'll always want a baby. And it's just basically talking about how some people just don't ever feel like they are done. And I think I'm just coming to realize that I don't think I'll ever feel like I am done having kids. Like, I think I'll always just, kind of question, okay, am I done? I don't know. It's really sad to close that door for good. So I'm 90% sure that we aren't, but who knows? I'm pretty sure we're done. But okay, next question. How do you get kids to clean up toys? Use a timer. This works for me. It also works for kids. So timers can be motivating for children also. So basically, if I say, okay guys, you need to go clean up your toys, and they are not doing it, they're just kind of playing, they're not really showing much motivation, I'll say, all right, we need to race against the timer. Let's see if we can get all of these toys picked up before the timer goes off. I'll set it for a certain amount of time, and it is like magic. They start running around, racing around the house, getting things cleaned up. So timer works for my kids. It worked for my daycare kids as well. Another thing with my own kids, I sometimes have had to threaten, if things aren't cleaned up, then we need to wrap them up and send them to donation because you're not taking care of them. I did go through a rough period with my boys where they were having a really hard time cleaning up, and I did have to threaten that. Basically, my policy is if you don't take care of your belongings and you don't clean up after yourselves, then they go to a home where the children will love them and take care of them and put them back where they belong when they're done using them. So those are kind of my tips on getting kids to help clean up. But timers, I mean, seriously, I just did this at work the other day with my friend's son. Blake was with me, Julia was with me, and they had played in the playroom, which is fine. Make a mess. I have no problem with making messes as long as you do clean it up when you're done. So we were getting ready to pack up and leave, and we said, all right guys, you need to start cleaning up the playroom. And they were just playing. So 5 minutes later I checked in and they still hadn't really cleaned anything up. So I said, all right, I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes. You guys need to beat the timer, okay? Let's try to race the timer and see if you can get done cleaning before the timer goes off. And it was done in 10 minutes. So the timer trick works for me when I'm not feeling motivated. I set the timer for myself, and apparently it works for my kids as well. So using the timer, and then, like I said, if you're really having a hard time with your kids cleaning up their own toys, then you just talk to them about why it's important to take care of their belongings, and if they're not going to, then it's time to pass them on to a family that will. Those are some of the things that have worked for us anyways. Okay, the next question. How do you occupy younger kids while doing bigger activities with the older kids? They were asking when I was doing daycare. So when I was doing daycare, of course, I had a range of different kids. I had babies, I had toddlers, and I had older kids. So we did a lot of crafts, and some of the crafts involved, maybe beads or paint or just objects that the little ones and my babies couldn't necessarily get involved with. So basically how I kept them occupied. I had this little bin of toys that I would rotate different toys out of. And when I was needing to keep them occupied, I would bring that bin out. So it was a new bin of toys that they didn't necessarily play with all the time. So it was new to them. It was like almost opening up new gifts. And like I said, I would rotate the toys that were in the bin. So that way there were always, new toys in the bin. And that seemed to keep them very occupied. Also, finding different crafts and activities to keep the younger ones occupied. So age-appropriate activities for them. So maybe they won't be able to use, small beads or even pasta or dried pasta. Sometimes we did crafts with that, or paint. Find an activity that's age-appropriate for them. Pinterest is a great tool for that. Just type in your child's age and, search for activities that are age-appropriate for them. And set them up with that activity. Get your older kids sort of started with their activity, and then kind of bounce back and just help with younger kids and the older kids. So those were kind of the ways that I dealt with trying to keep the younger kids occupied while doing bigger activities with the older kids. As far as keeping younger kids occupied when we're going to sports activities and Cub Scout activities, I have an on-the-go bag, and I'm going to share that with you guys in an upcoming video. I just put it together because spring is coming and we're going to be at the baseball field for a very long time this year because 2 of my boys are playing baseball. So hold on 1 minute. I hear Julia calling for me, so I'll be right back. Okay, so the on-the-go bag. Basically, like I said, I will definitely show you, I'll have a whole separate video showing you guys how I've organized my on-the-go bag and what I keep in it. But basically the idea is that you have a bag that is pre-packed with activities, games, reading material, little toys, snacks, all sorts of things that will help your little ones stay entertained while they are sitting at a ball field or a soccer field or Cub Scout event. Because let's face it, sometimes they get really bored there and you need something to entertain them as well. So those are kind of some of the ways that I keep the younger kids entertained while I'm doing bigger activities with the older kids. Next question is, do you have any good motivation tips for when the kids are having an angry day? For example, shopping when the kids aren't behaving. Oh, we've all been there. My daughter Julia, so it's so funny, whenever people see her for the first time, or even when I'm filming her on camera, she just seems like the sweetest, most innocent little girl ever. Let me tell you, she has an anger streak. She really can get very angry, and when she does, watch out. So I have definitely been in situations where I feel like I'm that parent with the child just on the floor having a meltdown. And when I see other parents at the store, I just want to give them a hug who are going through that similar situation and just be like, I've so been there. As she's getting older, it's getting a little bit easier, but basically what I have found really works is to get them involved. I used to do this with my boys. My boys were a little bit more easygoing as far as doing errands and that sort of thing, but I would always try to get them involved. So instead of saying like, we have to go here, we have to go here, I would say, can you please help mommy go grocery shopping? And while I'm making my list, get a piece of paper and a pen for them so they can write a little list. They can bring their list to the grocery store while you bring yours. Help them, if you're in the same general area, ask them to get the apples or bananas. It really helps them make them feel important and helps them not dread the situation. I also have asked them, I know you don't want to go to the grocery store today. I don't really want to go either, but it's something we do need. We need to eat. Explain to them why you need to go. We have to have food to make dinner and yummy snacks and breakfast and all of that. And sometimes that kind of helps them understand why they're doing these dreaded tasks. Another thing that I do a lot of times is I'll ask, what is it that you want to do today? And if they say, go to the playground or the library or watch a movie or whatever it may be, I say, okay, if you can be a very good girl or boy when we go shopping, then we'll do what you want to do when we're done, okay? We need to get these things done, but once we're done with them, then we'll do something that you would like to do. And that sort of motivates them to behave and do well, so that way they can then do what they want to do. I've also used bribery. I'm not gonna lie. I have totally been that parent that says, if you're good the entire time we're in the store, then when we get home, you can have a special treat or watch, a special show or whatever it may be that excites your child. Sometimes bribery is needed. If you really need to get things done, I've done it. But basically, those are some of the ways that I have sort of helped my kids switch gears from being really angry and upset about doing certain things. And, when sometimes kids, when they wake up in a bad mood, they're just in a bad mood, just like adults. Sometimes we wake up in a funk and we're just like, oh, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to do anything today. And kids sometimes feel like that too. So I can't really blame them. Sometimes I try to put myself in their situation and just try to see it from their perspective, and that helps also. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any other additional questions, I'd love to do these videos. I like it, being able to get to hear what your questions are, and you guys can get to know me a little bit better by hearing the way I answer them. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I will talk to you soon.